sit? Is it better? Or standing is better? No, I can stand also. Makes no difference, either way. Hari Om. Hari Om. Welcome to this beautiful program of Guru Vandanam. Today, it is the turn of Chinmaya Academy of Management to go through the presentation. We shall start today's program with Arati, followed by the video talk of Pujya Gurudev, and then we'll have a talk by Swami Mitrananda Ji on the gist of the 3rd chapter. Following which, the members of the Chinmaya Academy of Management will talk about a few verses of chapter 3, and then there is Swaranjali. So let's enjoy the evening, an evening of divinity, and welcome once more to all of you. And I'm sure it's going to be a very blessed evening. Thank you very much, and now we'll go to the Puja and Arati. Thank you. Oh,
Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjalashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Stavaram Jangamam Vyaptam, Yatkinchit Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapi Yat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sarvashruti Shiroratna Virajita Padambujaha Vedantambuja Suryoyaha तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। चैतन्य शाश्वत शान्तो व्योमातीतो निरञ्जनः बिन्दुनादकलातीतः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ज्ञानशक्तिसमारूढः तत्त्वमाला विभूषितः भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदाता च तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अनेकजन्मसम्प्राप्त कर्मबन्धविदाहिने आत्मज्ञानप्रदानेन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। शोषणं भवसिन्धोश्च ज्ञापनं सारसम्पदः गुरोपादोदकं सम्यक् तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरोरधिकं तपः तत्त्वज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। मन्नाथ श्री जगन्नाथ मद्गुरु श्री जगद्गुरु मदात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरुरादिरनादिश्च गुरु परमदैवतं गुरो परतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव त्वमेव सर्वं गुरुदेव देव। व्याप्तं जगद्देन चिदात्मभावा रज्वा यथा हेमि चराचरं यत् संन्यस सर्वं च सदात्मभावे स्वयं समस्तं च बभूव यस्तु निस्सङ्गनिर्मुक्तिपदं प्रपद्य ब्रह्मात्मभावेन विराजितो य श्रीसौम्यकाशीश महेश्वराय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय। अखण्डभाव शिवरूपतत्त्व चित्ती स्वभाव परमात्मसत्य सत्य ससत्य सुधियैव गम्य परप्रदानात् परमेश्वरो य आद्यन्तहीनो निरपेक्षदीप्ति स्वतः स्वरूपेण विफुल्लितो य श्रीसौम्यकाशीश महेश्वराय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय। मन्तुं न शक्यो मनसा कदाचिद् वक्तुं न केनापि तथा न वाचा बोधुं च बुद्ध्यादि तथा न शक्य बुद्ध्यादि साक्षी खलु केवलोय सर्वेन्द्रियातीतपदस्थितोऽपि सर्वेन्द्रियप्रेरयिता परोय श्रीसौम्यकाशीश महेश्वराय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय। शुद्धातिशुद्धं च सदा प्रबुद्ध विश्वेश्वरो विश्वपरप्रसन्न व्यापी परब्रह्मणि मोदमानो वेदान्तसार सुधियां शरण्य एको वशी सर्वभूतादिवास सर्वाधिपः सर्वजीवात्मकोय श्रीसौम्यकाशीश महेश्वराय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय अशब्दमस्पर्शमरूपवच तथा रसं नित्यमगन्धवच निरञ्जनं नित्यनिरीहमेकं बुद्धे परं निर्गुणसद्ध्रुवं च गुह्यं गम्भीरं गगनोपमं यं पश्यन्ति निर्धूतमलायतीन्द्रा श्रीसौम्यकाशीश महेश्वराय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय तेजोमयं दिव्यममेय शक्तिं सनातनं शान्तमनामयं च अद्वैतमाश्चर्यमचिन्त्यरूपं परात्परं नित्यमनन्तमाद्यं ज्ञानप्रकाशेन विशुद्धसत्त्व यं पश्यति स्वात्मनि चिन्त्यमानं श्रीसौम्यकाशीश महेश्वराय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय तस्मै नमः स्वामी तपोवनाय ॐ अजाय नमः ॐ बुधताम्बिकाय नमः ॐ अविनाशिने नमः ॐ अचिन्त्याय नमः ॐ अप्रमेयाय नमः ॐ अद्वितीयाय नमः ॐ अनिकेताय नमः ॐ अनुशासनप्रियाय नमः ॐ अन्तर्याशिने नमः ॐ अन्तर्यामिने नमः ॐ आनन्दाय नमः ॐ आत्मस्वरूपाय नमः ॐ आङ्ग्लभाषाविदुत्तमाय नमः ॐ ईश्वराय नमः ॐ उदारहृदयाय नमः ॐ उत्साहवर्धकाय नमः ॐ एकस्मै नमः ॐ ओंकारविदे नमः ॐ करुणासागराय नमः ॐ कर्मपरायणाय नमः ॐ कालातीताय नमः ॐ कैवल्यस्वरूपाय नमः ॐ कृतात्मने नमः ॐ कृतकृत्याय नमः ॐ गीताज्ञानयज्ञप्रचारकाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ गुणातीताय नमः ॐ ग्रन्थकृते नमः ॐ चिन्मयाय नमः ॐ छिन्नसंशयाय नमः ॐ जगदात्मने नमः ॐ जगत्साक्षिणे नमः ॐ जनप्रियाय नमः ॐ जितेन्द्रियाय नमः ॐ जीवब्रह्मैक्यविदे नमः ॐ जीवन्मुक्ताय नमः ॐ जीनमन्दिरोद्वा ॐ ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्महविः ब्रह्माग्नो ब्रह्मणाहुतं ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यं ब्रह्मकर्मसमाधिना ॐ प्राणाय स्वाहा ॐ अपानाय स्वाहा ॐ व्यानाय स्वाहा ॐ उदानाय स्वाहा ॐ समानाय स्वाहा ॐ ब्रह्मणे स्वाहा। Next is what? Arati. Come get it. You get it. I'll do my own. You take this one. I'm going to bed.
The word dharma in Hinduism is a most confusing word. There are only two letters in it, dharma. But if you check up any of the authentic dictionary, Sanskrit dictionary, you shall find that the meaning of that little two-lettered word, dharma, will be about 3 columns every page, and like that 3 pages, 9 columns of small print will be all its meaning. And at the end of it, strangely enough, you see that the lexicon, the author of it has written there as etc., etc., etc. Meaning, it's not complete, but these are some of the meanings of it. The word is the same, dharma. Hundreds of meanings. Its application Therefore, you will find from book to book or author to author or speaker to speaker, they interpret the dharma as differently. But it is essentially one meaning. Its application is different. Everything in the world have got properties. Chemistry, any text, elementary textbook of chemistry, you take it and read. Chemistry is the science of substances. A substance is that which has got physical and chemical properties. A thing that has no properties is not a substance. In Sanskrit it is called a dravya. A substance is that, a thing is that which has got properties. If there is no property in it, no form or color, no smell, no taste, no touch, no sound, then that is not a thing. Everything in the world, the Einsteinian world of objects, the objects of the world outside must have properties. Sugar, it must have its property. Fire, it must have its property. The properties of a thing fall under two categories: essential property and non-essential property. Sugar can be brown, can be white, can be crystalline, can be sandy, can be powder, can be rocky. But the essential property is that it must be sweet. However much a thing may look like candy, but when you break it and put it in the mouth, you'll spit wherever you are standing. This essential property of a thing, because of which the thing is the thing, in the absence of which, however much it may look like the thing, it is not the thing. This essential property is called its dharma. Cold fire, it's not fire. Heat is the essential property of fire. It may look like fire, but it is not fire because it is not hot. Thus, what is your dharma? The dharma of all living beings is the self, the life in you, because of which you are what you are. Once the life is gone, you look, within 48 hours, you look like an eggplant. So long as you are alive, you are efficient physically, dynamic mentally, and highly intellectual. How you are a genius. You are serving the society. Okay, when? So long as life is there. But once it's gone, you are no more. You are wiped out, rubbed out. So the common dharma of all living beings, plant, animal and human, is the supreme dharma. Therefore, this is called as Sanatana Dharma, the most ancient dharma. That from which everything has come. That because of which everything is dynamic. That which is in your heart, which enlivens everything. Bible.
Yesterday you Chapter 3 is called Karma Yoga. A very beautiful chapter where we can reach the Lord through work. We don't have to aspire seeking God. We don't have to do anything. We serve intelligently. We perform action intelligently, and that will take us to enlightenment. How to reach divine through work is the theme of chapter 3, Karma. performing actions, how can I seek God? There are some people who perform rituals. There are some people who perform, through bhakti they reach, offering flowers, etc. And there are some who meditate and reach. Chapter 3 talks about reaching divine through action, through work. So this is a chapter which is more applicable for the contemporary person, because when you are young and dynamic and you want to work in the world, how do we convert our work into prayer? That is the theme. So the chapter 3 begins with Arjuna asking a question: Krishna, why are you engaging me into this horrible action, agora karma? If you think meditation is better, don't you think I should take that? And then he says, listen, you're giving me too many options. I'm confused. Tell me, vada nischatya. Tell me one for certain and I will follow. And then Krishna begins chapter 3 discourse. Most important verses here are how, by controlling organs of perception and engaging organs of action in work, we can attain the divine. And to that work and to the result be detached. In short, commit to some selfless work, perform diligently that selfless work, to the work and to the result be detached, and slowly realize you are not even the doer, he is the doer. Performing action selflessly, to that very action be detached, and to the outcome of the action be detached, and slowly realize you are not even a doer. Karma Yoga, this is it. If we can learn this art, then every work what we do can lead us to God. And also in this chapter, you will find Krishna talking about you take care of devas and devas in turn will take care of you. Parasparam bhavayantaha. You take care of devas and devas in turn will take care of you. Parasparam, taking care of each other, may you progress. What he means here is, Deva here means Agni Deva, Vayu Deva, Varuna Deva, nature. You nurture and nourish nature. Nature in turn will serve you like a slave. You nurture devas, you nurture nature, nature in turn will serve you. By serving each other, parasparam, by nurturing each other, may you progress. That's the balance Krishna speaks. And when we don't practice worshipping nature, unfortunately, the world lost it. When all the pagan religions in the world lost into worshipping a god somewhere sitting in heaven, when our attention was taken away from created God, created, and saying there is only a creator you will worship and not the created, we lost it. The world was worshipping both the created as divine and the creator is also divine. And in Hinduism, the creator is not different from the created. The created is also expression of God. So when we were taking care of the rivers and the trees as God, the earth was fine. Today, the climatic change is when the pagan religions around the world gave up worshipping nature, their gods, and started worshipping God sitting somewhere up, disconnected from the created, has created this climate change. Otherwise, everybody was having a reverential attitude towards God. So Krishna speaks about this verse, Devan, you protect devas and devas in turn will protect. He also speaks about leadership in this chapter. Whatever a wise man sets as an example, others will follow. So we must be careful what kind of actions we perform. For others, they will be imitating us. So it's a responsibility for everybody that the people around you will be influenced by your actions. And there will be people around you who look up to you and they will imitate your actions. So be careful how you perform. And also, Krishna speaks about Swadharma. how we should choose our own inner calling. So this chapter is a very beautiful, practical for contemporary beings, for this generation, how to reach divine through work. Enjoy chapter 3.
Chinmaya Academy of Management, Chennai Chapter.
CAM, an institution with a postmodern approach to development, recognizing the widespread pressing need to equip individuals from all backgrounds with life management tools. CAM's history dates back to the early 1990s, since when the organization has devised and delivered a wide range of workshops and seminars for corporate houses, entrepreneurs, field personnel, and educational institutions, thereby bringing a positive change in various spheres of the society. This state naturally leads an individual to focus on career vision, purpose, and holistic life. No doubt, CAM helps imbibe communication skills, leadership maturity, language enrichment, aptitude, and professional ethics, thereby enhancing the true character of the participant.
Welcome to Chinmaya Academy of Management, a center for holistic management training.
Start Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsachanooramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. So we heard Pujya Gurudev himself. You also heard what Swami Mitranandaji had to say. It is our endeavor between me, my name is Geeta Menon, and this is my colleague Uma Kalyanam. Both of us are from the Chinmaya Academy of Management. And we are here to discuss a few verses from chapter 3. It was difficult to choose because every verse seems to be so good, because it's about what is happening to all of us every day. We are in the midst of so much action. So everything seemed so relevant. We have chosen a few verses, 10 or 11, which looked very good. So let's start at the start, which is Arjuna's question to Krishna. By that way Krishna was going in chapter 2, Arjuna was thinking, oh, he's finally telling me that I can go and be a jnani and I don't have to go to action, which means I don't have to go fight, which means I don't have to kill my relatives. But finally Krishna said, go fight. And therefore, what does he say? Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. So he says, Arjuna says, if it be thought by you that knowledge is superior to action, O Janardana, why then do you, O Keshava, engage me in this terrible action. So, point to be noted, he is using two terms. One is Janardana and the other is Keshava. When we want to go get a favor from someone, what do? We try to be nice to them. So he says Janardana, and then he says Keshava, and he says terrible action. So Arjuna just is not convinced, even at the end of the second chapter, that he should go and fight. As the chapter progresses, we will see why that is happening to him. The great archer, the greatest archer of all times, all ready to fight. They've gone through the Draupadi episode, they've gone through all the forest episode, everything. And finally they said yes, together they said they'll fight. When he entered also, he told Krishna, take me to the center of the field. Why then this Arjuna faltering? That we will see as we go along. So now that was verse 1. The next verse that we are going to, that my friend Uma is going to handle, is verse number 5. That is about action is inevitable. Nahi kaschit shanamapi jatu tishtatya karma kriti कार्यते ह्यवशः कर्म सर्व प्रकृति जैर्गुणैः नहि कश्चित् क्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्म कृते कार्यते ह्यवशः कर्म सर्व प्रकृति जैर्गुणैः.
That you need to do action or you need to fight. So the first thing here, the meaning is, verily none can ever remain even for a moment without performing action. For everyone is made to act helplessly, indeed by the qualities born of Prakriti. Here Krishna is trying to say that none of us can remain silent. Though most of the time we are trying to say, now I'm going to be silent, sitting in a meditation seat, and we try to say, or we try to at least physically make our actions non-movable, like, you sit straight, don't move, close your eyes, fold your hands. But are we really silent? No. The mind keeps going from Chennai to other parts of the world. We are really moving very fast. Like always Gurudev used to say, the moment you sit in the meditation seat, if it's early morning, the first thought after 10 minutes is the coffee, the smell of the coffee, and so you think about coffee. If it is okay, I have had my coffee, then I sit in the mid-afternoon, then it's breakfast or lunch. So actually what Krishna is trying to say is, it is impossible to be without acting. Though we are trying to say, like Arjuna wanted to quit and say, I want to move out of this war and go and do my meditation, leave, renounce everything and go. Krishna clearly says, born in this world, in this Prakriti, it is not possible to act. So then what is Krishna trying to say? Probably you definitely need to act, and he is giving a direction how we are supposed to act in the rest of the verses. Let us go there.
You done?
Yeah.
Okay, so we definitely have to act. There is no escape, says Uma. Taking off from where Krishna said and Gurudev also taught. Now how should we act? If there is no other choice, we have to act. In fact, there is no time when we are not acting. Even when we are silent, the body is in action. Anything inert only doesn't have action, and when we are inert, we are something else. So action is inevitable. Heart is pumping away. Heart is pumping away, isn't it? And that's why it's so nice here. And all the things. So now let's look at what is the way to act. And that is verse number 7. For those of you who have a book in the hand, you can go to verse number 9, which is detached action. Detached action, verse number 9. Okay? It says, Yajñarthat karmanonyatra
Yajñātāt karmano yatra
lokoyam karma bandhanaha
lokoyam karma bandhanaha
tadartham karma kaunteya
tadartam karma kaunteya
mukta sanga samacharaha
mukta sanga samacharaha
yajñarthat karmano yatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samacharaha. The world is bound by actions other than those performed for the sake of sacrifice. Do thou, therefore, O son of Kunti, perform action for that sake, for yajna alone, free from all attachments. It says the world is bound by action other than those that are performed for the sake of sacrifice. So what is the crux word here? Sacrifice. What is the meaning of sacrifice in this context? Sacrifice has got several connotations in English. Here, sacrifice means what? Sacrifice means something that is not accruing to oneself is sacrifice. Anything that we do which does not accrue with a selfish nature can be considered a sacrifice. That is why we respect our soldiers so much. Why? They know that probably or most probably they'll have to make the ultimate sacrifice. And yet those brave men and women choose to join the army and the air force and the navy. That is why they are so respected. Anything, it's not only for those in the defense forces, any of us in any of our action, our own Puja Gurudev, a life of continuous and only sacrifice. Why? Because whatever is done by men of such great attitude is something that is not accruing to themselves, nothing for themselves, everything for the good of the world. Everything from start to finish, good of the world, start to finish, good of the world. Now, why is Krishna advising this to Arjuna? Because Arjuna is born a prince. And is it a fight or is it a war between Arjuna and Bhishma? Answer is no. There is no war between two individuals there. The fight is between two ideologies. What is the ideology? One of selfishness and one of dharma. So to establish dharma, to remove that selfish, black, horrible rule that Dhritarashtra and his sons had brought upon the people of the kingdom, it was the duty of the Pandavas to go in and take action. That is why Krishna chose to be with them. And Arjuna, being the principal player in this whole among the 5 Pandavas, the principal player, he could have won the war all by himself. With Krishna by his side, there wasn't really anybody else needed. But then it was a team game. And the war is between two armies. Two armies. Arjuna forgot that. Arjuna made it his own personal war. There is no personal war there. It was not Arjuna versus Bhishma, Arjuna versus Drona, Arjuna versus the cousins. No, it was the ideology one versus the other. And Arjuna is also part of the team. That thing, even though through the 2nd chapter, Krishna explained, did not sink into Arjuna. So therefore he has a doubt, and Krishna is most patiently telling that the action has to be detached action. What are we to learn from this teaching? Because after all, it is not just something that we learn for the sake, it is something that we practice. So what do we learn in our everyday life? What should our attitude be? Just like what was advised to Arjuna, to work for something beyond ourselves. Then the question is, shouldn't we work for ourselves? Of course we must work for ourselves. But the fruits of action need not be kept to oneself. Puja Gurudev says, create the maximum, live in the minimum, share the rest of it with the world. He says, give it away. So those of us who can create must create. Those of us who can go out there and do whatever best we can must do it. You know, recently or yesterday I saw a fantastic interview by the great ISRO scientist Nambi Narayanan, who was so badly wronged. And what struck me as fantastic and beautiful in that interview was, he's saying, I want to see my nation far above, in another zone, you know, he wanted to lift it. That's why he chose to leave NASA and come here to serve us. Of course, some things went wrong. We won't get into that. But the attitude of that man was for the nation. And that is why we celebrate him today. Even though he had to go through hardships, we celebrate him. You can go around, whether it is anybody, any professional, our own sannyasis who serve us, who serve the society so much. They have left everything for what? To serve the society. Our soldiers, our doctors, our engineers, our disaster management people, the NDRF who reach wherever there is a flood. Just now we saw what happened at the Amarnath cave, and they were there in no time. They also stand the risk of losing their life, but still they are there. But that attitude to action, whatever action you do, gives you the ability to have make a detached action. And when you have detached action, but some actions can be, they might stem forth from selfishness. Now how do I alter that? I alter that by changing my attitude with the fruits of action. Don't hoard, that hoarding thing, drop it. Drop the hoarding and share it. Because empty your suitcase so there's space for more grace to flow. It's actually a smart thing to do as well. Because if you hoard, you will be just, whatever stagnates, decays. So we don't want to stagnate. So we'll go for a very detached action. From today, I'm sure most of you are already practicing this a lot. But those of you who haven't, start today with even the small things. And if there are students listening to this, please, even in college, share. When you share, it becomes more beautiful. Life becomes much more beautiful. So now we'll go on, because we are also constrained by time. We'll go to the next verse, which we've chosen, which is the Yajna spirit. That is verse number 11 of chapter 3. Yeah? Devan bhavayata nena,
Devan bhavayata nena,
te deva bhavayantu vaha,
te deva bhavayantu vaha,
parasparam bhavayantaha,
parasparam bhavayantaha,
shreya paramavapsyat,
shreya paramavapsyat,
devan bhavayata nena, te deva bhavayantu vaha, parasparam bhavayantaha, shreya paramavapsyat.
Yes, as Geeta was telling, we have to do detached action, but we can also, how do I get this detached action? I'm sure you all heard Swami Mitranda talking about the Parasparam Bhavayanti. This is a very close to my heart, is this word Parasparam Bhavayanti. In our day-to-day life, let us take, how I look at others is what I get back in it. Suppose I'm not happy or I don't show that positive reaction to someone, then I also don't get a positive reply from them. I'm always, even when I was sharing with Geeta, I was always admiring that story, a very old story of that king and the sculptor. I'll tell it very shortly. There was a king, and he normally used to go around his kingdom. So one evening he went with the minister. On one of the roads, he found one elderly, about 50-year-old man, sitting not very happy, but a very quite gloomy and sad. And he just passed by, but suddenly he looked at the minister and he said, "Hang him." So the minister for a second was stuck the way the king has given him. He said, "What happened?" He said, "Somehow I feel, when I look at him, he's not a nice man, you can hang him." So the minister was very nice and he said, "Give me a week's time. Let me find out what this man is. Let me find his background and come back to you." So then the minister went to his house the next day and he was inquiring about this man, and he came to know that he is a man, he's a very big sculptor basically, very good at it. And suddenly he was not having any work at the kingdom. There was nothing much for him to do. And he had hoarded a lot of sandalwoods with him to make something, and it was of no use to him. So somewhere in his mind, he was praying, let the king die, at least the kingdom will use it for his funeral. So that thought somehow was there in his mind at a stop. So then this minister understood it, and he said, "Okay, let me do something for this." So he said the king that we have not been celebrating many festivals, so let us make the Ratham for this very famous temple in our kingdom. So the king said, "Yes, you can go ahead. Let us start doing something." Like we also after Corona have started coming back. So the king said, "Let us do something to regenerate and do something." So he went and spoke to this man and said, "Will you do this cart for this temple of this big size?" And so he became really happy, and he said he called his people and he started his work. Probably after 10 days, the king said, "How is the work progressing?" So then he said, "Let us go and see." So he took the king there. He didn't talk anything about this man to king for that time. So the king was going around and he was very happy the way the Rath was getting done. And after some time he saw this man and he walked away. King walked away back. And on his way back, he was looking at the minister and said, "Now I'm not feeling that." So the minister said, "Yes, because now that man's thought is, let the king live long." Though it's a very old story, it struck me very like what Mitranji said, the more we celebrate all the devas, the deities around us, like in olden days we did. Every celebration of or every festival of ours was thanking the Lord, thanking the deities. Let it be Pongal or anything for that matter. We thanked every deity in our life very naturally. So we didn't have these natural calamities. So by this action, like she said, detached action, and something to do more of yajna, give more. So do in a bigger thought. You thank everyone. Then that action becomes more divine. Let us go to the next one.
So now we have progressed from detached action to something where paraspara bhavayanti, said Uma. So that paraspara bhava, you are nourished because we love each other. And in fact we love the whole loka samasta sugino bhavantu. We have reached a stage where we exist in a very harmonious and nourishing atmosphere. And here we are now going to look at verse number 14. Verse number 14, which we have captioned as righteousness. Annad bhavanti bhutani.
Annad bhavanti bhutani.
Parjanyadanna sambhavaha.
Parjanyatyatanna sambhavaha.
Yajnad bhavati parjanyaha.
Yajnad bhavati parjanyaha.
Yajna karma samudbhavaha.
Yajnat karma samudbhavaha.
annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yajñāt bhavati parjanyaha yajñāt karma samudbhavaha. From food come forth beings. From food come forth beings. From rain, food is produced. From sacrifice arises rain. And sacrifice is born of action. I'd like to also read the next stanza, which says, Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajñe pratishtitam. Which means, know you that action comes from Brahma, the creator, and Brahma comes from the imperishable. Therefore, all pervading Brahman, God principle, ever rests in sacrifice. So what does it say? It says that in a sense of sacrifice or in noble action, we can read it as noble action, in all that we discuss so far, in a noble action, there is the Brahma, the truth rests there. In nobility, the truth is resting. Nobility, the core value of nobility is where the truth rests. Because truth cannot rest in something that is not noble. And when the whole society is moving in a very, very noble manner, in a manner that we care for each other, in that we nourish the entire, even the small society that we live in. We don't chop off our trees because it doesn't pain us anymore. As Uma was saying, and previously we heard Swami Mitrananda ji also saying, that we love nature. We are very sure that we don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to chop things off and just, is it important to chop trees? At times, yes. At times, yes. We have to chop trees to create some space for some dwelling or to get some wood for, but is it avoidable? Can we design ourselves in a way? So all this thoughtful way, can we, for like the rain has to come for food to grow. Can we also read that can we catch the rain in our catchment areas instead of filling them up with all the landfill and getting all those multi-stories up there, and now there is no space for the water. Bhagavan is giving the rain and the rain just runs off into the ocean. And we had the Chennai floods in Chennai. Why? Because there was no place to catch the water. And immediately after 6 months we don't have water. We are going between either flood or drought. Flood or drought. So Bhagavan, those days I think he foresaw what we are going to do today. So through Arjuna, he is telling us that your food is coming from rain. And rain comes forth from good actions. And really speaking, all the nourishment that is available on this earth, how does it reach you? Can you pick up the mineral? I think I need some magnesium, so I'll take some magnesium and eat. I think my zinc is low, so I will take some ferrous and eat. Can I eat it? No, it has to come through my food. Or I'll have to keep popping tablets and taking shots. But when it comes naturally, you have all your fantastic, beautiful vegetables and all those greens and everything that gives you the nourishment. From where does it come? It comes from the soil, which is helped by the water, and the beautiful water gives us, and we become healthy. In turn, we are grateful to nature. We nourish nature, nature nourishes us. We nourish nature, nature. See, because really just think of all of nature, who is actually physically the weakest creation other than the insect and a few things. Most animals are stronger than us. The elephant, the lion, that one, this one, the horses, everybody is. But how come man is so smart and man rules? Because we have the discrimination. So should we take that discrimination to destroy, or should we take the discrimination to live in a sense of sacrifice? Yajna. When we live in a sense of sacrifice, that's when The whole universe is blessed. Otherwise, every time, even today in, I think, Rudraprayag, I saw just a short clipping where there was a landslide. People somewhere do some things and poor villagers are under the landslide and flood. People are all suffering. Why? Who created it? We. We don't have to look anywhere else for the culprit. We. And therefore, when all that, probably the farmers were just ready to harvest their crops, and there comes the flood and everything washes off. When the farmer, the farmer lost, we don't care. Hello, if the farmer lost, we lost too, because we don't get our veggies. Then what happens? We don't get our grains. Then what happens? Then it hits us. We are very, very hurt. So, in the crux of the whole thing is to live in a manner that is nourishing. Not only yourself and your family, your small world, but nourishes the whole world. When it nourishes the whole world, everybody is automatically nourished. I wish we would get nourished in the actual teaching, the Vedantic teaching, the Sanatana way of life. If you live, then the whole world would, as if where, like sometimes I show in the movie, and suddenly Krishna came and all the grass grew and all the, the vrindas grew. The vrindas grew and everything was so beautiful. Why? What is it that Krishna is showing there? Because positivity. When somebody comes, when Gurudev used to come to Chennai, and I was then so much younger and in the Yuva Kendra, when Gurudev came, it was like a continuous blow of fresh breeze. You didn't even need to sleep to be very, very refreshed all the time. And suddenly when he left, it was one big empty vacuum. Why? Because that freshness went away. But he left behind some for us. He left behind, and which we, which was able to keep us going for. And that happens with all the great Mahatmas. Whether they are a sannyasi or otherwise, somebody who lives for others nourishes. And therefore, when that person is around, the world is also nourished. With some leadership, all the things just curl up and dwindle. With some others, it all gets nourished and everything comes alive. Let us be people who, in our presence, we must try to see that people are coming alive, people are happy. Share a little bit from what you have. You are not going to lose. This attitude, as Suma very rightly said, her favorite word, parasparam. Paraspara bhavam irundale, that thing of, loving each other, to see myself in the other, that when you have it, then this whole thing is very easy to practice. Yeah? So shall we go and look at the next verse? After righteousness, the topic that we have chosen is leadership, which is verse number 21. Yeah? Yada yadyadacharati sreshta
Yadyadacharati sreshta
sattadevetaro janaha
Sattadevetaro janaha
sayat pramanam kurute
Sayat pramanam kurute
lokastadanu vartate
Lokastatanu vartate
yadyadacharati sreshta sattadevetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanu vartate.
As Geeta rightly said, a very rightfulness person, how a leader should be is what in this stanza we would like to highlight. When you talk about leader, I like the way Gurudev started his meaning in this. He said, man is essentially an imitating animal. So naturally for us, we normally try to imitate the person whom we really like. So it is best to choose the person who does good things, right? So whom are we imitating is very important. And here, Krishna goes to say, these leadership qualities we have, there will be a great change. So he says, any revolution for that matter, in a society, in any period of history, can take place only because the leader sets an example. Even now, when we talk about India, we now know the difference of leadership. The leader is really kept a standard for us to look upon. Otherwise, the way we looked about ourselves and now the way we talk about India is very different, right? In any part, in any action of life, let us say when we look at students. Now, normally we say, in those days the students were really nice. Now it is not like that. So, Krishna clearly says, the leader has to be right. So, the person who is teaching or who is in that fraternity should set a standard very high. When we look at our children and we keep saying, these children are not obeying. So, where does the mistake happens? It's on us, the parenting. So, unless I raise my standard, only then they will follow. For us, it's very easy to say, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. But whoever looks, it is only imitation. So, only when I set a standard of one level. Our greatest example is our Gurudev. He set the standard of Chinmaya mission to one level, which we are still struggling to even reach it. As, I won't say simple, as one quality of this, the time management, his punctuality. We can never, even today when we go wrong or even a few seconds we are late, I'm sure all of us feel very uncomfortable because we feel that we are not gone, we are doing something wrong. So how a leader should be is very simple in the sense he has to set a standard, and because we are very comfortable in imitating someone. Whomever you love, you imitate the person immediately. So if we could find a hero or a leader who's of that standard, then you grow with that, because we are naturally that way. We naturally start following someone. So man is that's why he says he's an imitating animal. Let us go to the next verse. Yeah.
All right, so I read somewhere it said, please don't be afraid that your children are not obeying you. Be very afraid that they are watching you. Be very, very afraid that you're... So those of you who are listening, and I'm sure most of you are parents, so be very, very afraid. You just say, telling lies is a very bad thing. And then the phone rings and you say, Mama's gone next door, she left the mobile here. What a wonderful way of teaching honesty. Mama's gone next door, she left the mobile here. So will your child ever learn honesty? So that is leadership. Now we are going to the next verse, which is verse number 22, which is duty. Which is duty. Name partasti kartavyam.
Name partasti kartavyam.
Trishu lokeshu kinchana.
Trishu lokeshu kinchana.
Nana vaptamavaptavyam.
Nana vaptamavaptavyam.
Varta eva cha karmani.
Varta eva cha karmani.
Name partasti kartavyam.
Name partasti kartavyam.
Trishu lokeshu kinchana. Nana vaptamavaptavyam. Varta eva cha karmani. There is nothing in the three worlds, says Krishna, O Partha, that has to be done by me. Nor is there anything unattained that should be attained by me. Yet I engage myself in action. So Krishna finally is telling an example about his own self. That is to drive home the point to his friend and favorite cousin Arjuna, saying that I don't need to get anything. I do not need to go any place. And yet, you see that I keep acting. So action is important, very, very important. And Krishna has been acting all his life. I think he was born with action. He was born, and no sooner he had to drive his dad and say, now let's go, and he was taken. He went from his mom's bosom right up to Nanda's house, and there he was there. He grew up as a cowherd boy. From there they went to Vrindavan. From Vrindavan, after some time, it was a demand, and therefore he left his favorite gopis and his cows and everybody and went to Mathura to slay the demon Kamsa, his uncle. And by the time he could settle in that, what happened? He had to go to Dwaraka. Even Mathura, he didn't take it for himself. He gave it to Ugrasena and said, go ahead. And he went to Dwaraka. Out of nothing, he built a beautiful kingdom. And then he gave it to the Vrishnis to rule. And where did he go? To Hastinapur. So, Krishna proves, Arjuna has seen that Krishna proves that he has been continuously acting. And even on their own behalf, on behalf of the Pandavas, how many times he went Dut? Why should he go and get insulted? Isn't it? Excuse me one. Yes? What? No, it's okay. So he has been a man of action all the time. So by his own example that he set it, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Rama, all the people that we call avatars have proved it. What they preach, they prove. What they preach, they prove. So Krishna tells Arjuna, for me, I don't need anything. And yet, here I am acting. And you, O son of Kunti, what is he telling him when he says, O Partha, that you have to fight because that is your preliminary duty. Your preliminary duty is to, why is the mic jumping? That is your preliminary duty. Your preliminary duty is to fight. You are a warrior prince and therefore you have to fight. And he pushes him on, he eggs him on. Now we look at the next verse, which is no doership, which is... No, you finish. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashi nirmamo bhutva yuddhasa vigadajvaraha Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashi nirmamo bhutva yuddhasa vigadajvaraha.
So in this stanza, Krishna says very beautifully, renouncing all actions in me with a mind centered on self, free from hope and egoism, free from mental fever, do fight. When I was reading this, it was really very interesting according to me, because in our day-to-day life we say, when we normally don't take responsibility in life and we say, if someone else is doing, I will like to work under him. Because we are very comfortable to say, it was not my issue, he is the head and I'm just working for him. So, but when Krishna says, very openly he says, renounce that doership. Some of you are not able to. So he says, what exactly is so? Otherwise, what we understand by renunciation is, I don't have to do any work. So here he says, renunciation of action does not mean being inactive. So the first thing he clears very clear, you have to do some work. But that doesn't mean, you can simply sit and say, I've renounced the world. And he also says two beautiful words in this. What are we supposed to renounce? In action, the two things he says is renounce hope, renounce ego. What is hope? Hope is an expectation about your future, right? I'm expecting something to happen, that is my hope. When I do something, I'm expecting a fruit of it. So that is, I'm expecting the future. What is ego? Ego is nothing but we are thinking about our past. My achievements, I did this, I'm very good at it, so I'm very proud of it. Either we are in the future or we are in the past. So he very clearly says, leave both. Leave the future, leave the past, work in the present. That is what in our modern world now we say, be in the present, which Krishna said long back to Arjuna. But why is he talking to Arjuna that way? Because, like we were talking about the other verse, he's a leader. He cannot run off. He cannot leave the army and go. So he has to keep a standard. So he says here, you fight. That is your duty. Leave the rest. Don't have an ego that I'm a big archer, or don't think this will happen. When they die, what will happen to him? Leave both. Just fight for dharma. So, in this, how are we supposed to live our life? Just do the duty. Don't get into the past and the future. It's one of the very, very apt thing which all of us should follow, as Swamiji was telling. This verse and this chapter gives you exactly what we are supposed to do in our present and modern life. It is not something told to Arjuna in 2 yugas back. It is now and here we need to understand. Going to the next one on the time constraint.
The verse number 35, which is Swadharma. It says, Shreyan Swadharmo Nigunaha
Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha
Paradharmat Swanushtitat
Paradharmastanushtitat
Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyaha
Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyaha
Paradharmo Bhayavaha
Paradharmo Bhayavaha
Shreyan Swadharmo Nigunaha Paradharma Swanushtitat Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyaha Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Better in one's own duty, though devoid of merit, than the duty of another well discharged. Better in death in one's own duty, the duty of another is fought with fear, is productive of positive danger. That is, stay and do what is your swadharma, what is your innate nature, follow your innate nature. Do not go and choose a career because it gives you more money, because you find that some other person has made a lot of money by following a certain path or choosing a certain study or a career. Don't go choose it. Choose what you are comfortable and what you like to do. That will give you a lot of happiness, and I am sure it will also output you the desired results that you are looking for. So we are going to rush this and the next stanza, next one, which is attainment of clarity. That is verse number 38. Dhumena vriyate vanner
Dhumnena vriyate vanner
Yadha darsho malena cha Yadolbena vrito garbha Statha tene damavritam Dhumena vriyate vanner Yada darsho malena cha Yadolbena vrito garbha
Statha tene damavritam. Here, as fire is enveloped by smoke, as a mirror by dust, as an embryo by the womb, so this wisdom or intellect is enveloped by that desire or anger. Here, the Gurudev tries to say here, our attachment to things can fall into 3 distinct categories. What are the 3 attachments? One is, as he always categorizes, the tamasic, the rajasic and sattvic desire. In desire also we have 3. So the tamasic one. The tamasic one is the basic. When we have desire for our basic, sensuous pleasure, he calls it as tamasic desire. In this tamasic desire, for us to come out of it, it takes a longer period for any human being. Why longer period? It's like the child in the womb. So it takes minimum 9 months for the birth of the child. So we need to do so much to come out of this particular desire. When we talk about the rajasic desire, where, I'm not for the sensuous pleasure, but I have a desire to attain power and money and fame and things. It is called rajasic desire, where it is more like the dust in the mirror. You can't just blow it off. You just take a cloth and wipe it clean as the dust. You really need to do a little more effort in it. So when it talks about sattvic desire, for me to attain the divinity, there he says it's like the fire and the smoke. You just have to blow it and you come out. You are able to come out. So there are 3 varieties of things which stops you from things. Either it can be sattvic desire, tamasic desire, and rajasic desire. What I have, I only need to know. I don't have to see what others have. So where do I stand and what I'm supposed to do? What sort of an action will help me to attain the betterment? Because from the beginning till the end, he's very clear, you have to act. So we have so many desires which stops us not to get onto that. So he says, find out what sort of a desire you have and what is the action to be followed. If it is sattvic, you just have to work a little. If it is rajasic, a little more. And tamasic, you really have to work a lot. We'll conclude with the last stanza.
Verse number 43. Evam buddhe param bhutva samstabhyatmanam atmanah jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Evam buddhe param bhutva samstabhyatmanam atmanah jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Thus knowing him who is superior to intellect and restraining the self by the self, slay you, O mighty armed, the enemy in the form of desire, no doubt hard indeed to conquer. So having understood that you are not just you but the team, having gone through the whole process of this karma yoga and having understood that this is for a larger, to go beyond, in conclusion, to go beyond and telling him to go fight. Still he is not saying you go, he says go and act, but act with a changed attitude. He is asking him to move forward. Krishna is asking Arjuna to move forward. We will conclude with this. Om Tat Sad Shri Srimad Bhagavad Geeta Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Yogo Nama Tritiyodhyayah. Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyah Mokshayishyami Ma Suchaha. Let's go back and read the first verse as is the practice. Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. Hari Om, and thank you very much.
Hari Om. Thank you.
வில்லினையொத்த புருவம் வலை தனி வேலவா வடி வேலவா அங்கோர் வெற்பு நொறுங்கி பொடி பொடியானது வேலவா வடி வேலவா. வில்லினையொத்த புருவம் வலை தனி வேலவா வடி வேலவா அங்கோர் வெற்பு நொறுங்கி பொடி பொடியானது வேலவா வடி வேலவா. சொல்லினை தேனில் குழை தூரைப்பாள் சிறு வள்ளியை கண்டு சொக்கி மரமென நின்றனை தென்மலை காட்டிலே மலை காட்டிலே. தேனில் குழை தூரைப்பாள் சிறு வள்ளியை கண்டு சொக்கி மரமென நின்றனை தென்மலை காட்டிலே மலை காட்டிலே. கல்லினை ஒத்த வலிய மனம் கொண்ட பாதகன் சிங்கன் பாதகன் அவன் கண்ணிரண்டாயிரம் காக்கை கீரையிட்ட வேலவா வடி வேலவா. கல்லினை ஒத்த வலிய மனம் கொண்ட பாதகன் சிங்கன் பாதகன் அவன் கண்ணிரண்டாயிரம் காக்கை கீரையிட்ட வேலவா வடி வேலவா. கல்லினை காட்டி வெண்முத்தை படித்திடும் வள்ளியை கூற வள்ளியை ஒரு பார்ப்பன கோலம் தரித்து கரம் தொட்ட வேலவா வடி வேலவா. கல்லினை காட்டி வெண்முத்தை படித்திடும் வள்ளியை கூற வள்ளியை ஒரு பார்ப்பன கோலம் தரித்து கரம் தொட்ட வேலவா வடி வேலவா. வில்லி வில்லினையொத்த புருவம் வலைத்தனை வேலவா வடி வேலவா அங்கோர் வெப்பு நொறுங்கி பொடி பொடியானது வேலவா வடி வேலவா வில்லினையொத்த புருவம் வலைத்தனை வேலவா வடி வேலவா அங்கோர் வெப்பு நொறுங்கி பொடி பொடியானது வேலவா வடி வேலவா 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 வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா.
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
பம்பை நதி கரை தேடி பக்குவமாய் நீராடி
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 தெம்புடன் நீர் பூசி தொடர்ந்து மலை ஏறிடுவோம்.
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 ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
மலைக்கு மேல் மலை தாண்டி மாமலையில் வாழ்பவனே
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 மலைக்கு மேல் கை கூப்பி தன்மயமாய் கும்பிடுவோம்.
தலைக்கு மேல் கை கூப்பி தன்மயமாய் கும்பிடுவோம்.
தலைக்கு மேல் கை கூப்பி தன்மயமாய் கும்பிடுவோம்.
தலைக்கு மேல் கை கூப்பி தன்மயமாய் கும்பிடுவோம்.
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம். தங்க நிற திருமேனி தாங்கி நிற்கும் சாஸ்தாவே
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 எங்கள் குல தெய்வம் என்று எந்நாளும் கும்பிடுவோம்.
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 ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
மெய்யான தெய்வம் என்று மேட்டினிலே புகழ் பாட
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 ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஆனந்த கூத்தாடிடுவோம்.
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 ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம். ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம். ஐயப்பா சரணம் ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம். ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று ஐயப்பா சரணம் என்று அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம். அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
ஆனந்த கூத்தாடிடுவோம்.
ஆனந்த கூத்தாடிடுவோம்.
அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
ஆனந்த கூத்தாடிடுவோம்.
ஆனந்த கூத்தாடிடுவோம்.
அன்பாக பாடிடுவோம்.
சுவாமியே
சரணமையப்பா. அப்பா.